You know, the last time I said, I will see you later, this is not what I was expecting. I was expecting a mega re-entry, mega relaunch.
Calm down, bro. This is PowerDrift. That's the Gixxer 250, that's the Dominar 250, and the new SpaceX rocket. We're not launching it today.
I know, but couldn't we do something more exciting?
Bro, this is the question we're getting. Should they buy this one or the Dominar? This is the must-do comparison test. The PowerDrift nation, as it were, this is what they want to know.
Fine. Let's do it then.
Sure. Start.
You're the senior guy. I think you should start.
What did you say to me?
And by senior, I mean you have more wisdom. You should start.
I'll tell you what. Rock, paper, scissors, best of 21.
Bajaj's Dominar 250 is the latest entrant into this segment, which has gotten crowded literally overnight. For us, the best motorcycle in this price class was the Gixxer 250 from Suzuki, which is now BS6 compliant.
But before we go any further, I think there are two things that you should know about this story. The first is that the Dominar weighs 180 kilos, which is really heavy for a bike of this class. The other thing is that the Suzuki Gixxer somehow has become BS6 compliant without any change in weight and almost no change in its performance specification at all.
But why aren't we excited, Shumi?
I think it's because of the way the segment is created. You know, the motorcycles at the top of the 160 or 200cc classes, they're at the top, so there's performance there. The 250s that are above these, like the KTM, those are also performance motorcycles. The 390, of course, is Michael Bay, right? But these are supposed to be comfortable, sweet-natured, competent motorcycles, and unfortunately, that robs them of the excitement a little bit. But enough talking. Let's go ride them, shall we?
But let's get right into it. We have two questions to answer. First, has the Suzuki changed in nature and feel as it transitioned into a BS6 model? And second, can the Dominar 250 beat it? To beat the Suzuki, the Bajaj has to be a better motorcycle in town as well as more comfortable out on the highway.
You might think that the Dominar would have the latter at least sewed right up, and you'd be wrong. There's a reason why most of the world's favorite touring motorcycles look like a street or sporty naked or an adventure tourer. There are many reasons why the Ducati Diavel is such a cool motorcycle, but its ability to go touring isn't one of those reasons.
The Power Cruiser format's biggest problems, luckily for us, lie at really low speeds. So when you put together the weight, the steering geometry and the long wheelbase, it tends to get in your way a bit. So the Dominar 250 is unwieldy at low speeds. The steering feels unduly heavy, it wants to flop to one side, and you will be challenged a bit when you want to make those slow, confident U-turns.
The Suzuki shows the Bajaj a clean pair of heels, and it's not hard to see why. I think the Gixxer was born literally for this environment, and the SF with the fairing and the clip-ons, it's not substantially different to ride. But more importantly, it's got 3 or 4 substantial advantages, starting with weight. You can feel it as soon as you climb on the Suzuki, and it makes flicking through traffic a lot easier. The Suzuki also has radial tires, that's more grip. It's also got suspension that's very nice at the bottom, so there are no jitters and bumps on the Suzuki, which means you generally go a little bit quicker than the Dominar. It's also got more ground clearance, so when the road gets bad, you continue to go fast, and that makes the Suzuki superior in the city. I'm not going to say that the Dominar guy can't keep up, but if they do, they're going to be working hard.
We're splitting hair here a bit for sure, but the difference is there. The Gixxer also feels better over bad roads, large speed breakers and all that.
So while the spread of features, refinement and economy might vary slightly between the two motorcycles, what I'm happy about is that both these 250s have top speeds in the 120 km an hour region, which means that these should make for reasonably swift highway motorcycles.
Yes, 250s like these will eventually hit the highway, and when you look at that spec sheet, it is strikingly similar. For example, the fuel tank capacity between the two is just a litre apart. Both these motorcycles will cruise on the highway at about 100 kilometers per hour smoothly, while I still think the Dominar is slightly better at it. Also, that mini fairing and that headlamp offers some kind of wind protection on the highway. The full fairing on the SF will offer a lot more protection, while on the naked Gixxer, there isn't any.
Bajaj has done a really nice job of taking the Duke 250 engine and calming it down and smoothing it out. It's can work in compression, but it really does work, and that is really enjoyable engine-wise, especially compared to the Dominar 400. But when you look at the Suzuki, it's the less refined engine by a very small margin. So out on the highway when you're riding, it feels like the Suzuki's engine does less work throughout, and at the end of your ride when you're tired, it'll just feel like that you're riding the Suzuki with a lot less effort.
To talk numbers, the Dominar makes marginally higher performance numbers at slightly lower RPM than the Suzuki. The Dominar does feel nice to ride on its own, but it is the slowest motorcycle in the class. It's also one of the most refined though, which is a bit of a surprise, and out on the highway, the Dominar engine has less vibration than the Gixxer, although the difference isn't that much.
Out here at higher speeds, the Dominar's steering geometry also rears its head again in the braking department. The Dominar 250 brakes well, not really showing any major issues despite getting a 300mm rotor, while the Duke 250 for example gets a 320. But the Gixxer just brakes better. It stops shorter, feels surer, and the brakes themselves return a little bit more feel. The final asset for the Suzuki is its economy, which means in spite of the Dominar getting a slightly bigger tank, the range on these motorcycles is almost identical.
So that means that this bland looking Suzuki is the better motorcycle of the two. There's not a lot in it. The Dominar is very close, but it's clearly the better motorcycle, the Suzuki. Now the Dominar's problems are not hard to spot. One of them obviously is the weight, which robs it of performance, and the other of course is the format, the park cruiser derivative that it is, which causes problems in the city, which makes the Gixxer fairly easy to recommend. The other reason to recommend them is that the naked Gixxer, that version of this bike, is exactly the same price as the Dominar more or less, and if you add 11,000 rupees more to that, then you'll get this one, the SF with the fairing and the clip-ons and everything.
And that actually makes the Suzuki the king of the affordable 250cc class for PowerDrift. But we have realized one thing for sure, that the 250cc class is extremely capable, but also slightly boring.
And you thought that Rohan was not in this video. Okay, let's get back to it. My point is that I think that these motorcycles are extremely capable, but as 250cc premium commuting kind of motorcycles, I think they need to do a little bit more than just have that spread of ability. I wish that these two, as well as the Yamaha, they had a little bit more, let's say, personality.
Yeah, what he means to say is that these motorcycles need to be a little more focused rather than having this I like everything or I will offer everything generalist approach. And that applies for the SZ25, ditto for the Dominar, ditto for the Suzuki Gixxer as well.
And with that, I think it's time for us to leave you with these motorcycles and go look for something more exciting to ride. Ready?
Yep.
Rock, paper, scissors, best of 21. Best of 21.
This is not what I was expecting. I was expecting a little more blah 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 blah.
Hey, sorry, my mask was on.
PowerDrift is doing a series of giveaways in association with Big Bad Bikes, the retailer of premium motorcycle gear and accessories. The giveaway question for this video is, I mentioned a number of advantages that the Suzuki Gixxer has over the Bajaj Dominar 250. But what is the first one that I mentioned?